I'm just putting together a couple videos. This is the tail end of epic times.
The person with the microphone, the loudest voice, automatically becomes the leader.
That's it. And notice, I mean, he who has the microphone has the power, right? I mean, bottom line, MSM. I mean, that's why we've got to confront these microphones on the higher level. But on the tactical level, out there in front of the Capitol, that was the tactical CNN, you might say, was Antifa that day. You know, leading them right into the action, breaking down doors. You can hear clearly Trump supporters saying, "Don't break anything, show respect." There must be thousands of videos, so I obviously can't go through them all. But you can clearly see many Trump supporters saying, "Don't break anything, don't steal anything," that sort of thing. And there you go.
Yeah, actually, at Epoch Times, we have many videos showing Trump supporters stopping actions like that, stopping destruction, and very clearly saying many, many times, we don't do that, don't break those things, so on.
Right. Yeah, the Trump supporters were trying to intervene. You can see when the initial attacks were going on, Trump supporters trying to pull them back. And then back from the front line on some of my other video, I haven't even looked at my own video yet, but people right in front of me talking, saying, "I don't agree with this is wrong, we shouldn't be here." You know, there's Antifa all around us. You hear Trump supporters jumping up many times going, "There's Antifa here. They're doing this. Antifa are making us look bad. Be careful, they're going to attack us. There's Antifa all over the place. They're dressed just like us. We don't know who they are."
Now, in terms of the Antifa handbook that you mentioned, did you see anything in that handbook also being played out?
Oh, absolutely. AP work, Agent Provocateur, right out of the Anti-Fascist Handbook, which you can get on Amazon.com, and you should get it and read it. And then you'll understand a lot more about what they're doing. These are old tactics. You don't even need to get it from that handbook. And it's right out of CIA handbook. I mean, this is old stuff that we also do, right? This is not anything. I mean, this same tactic was used in Iran by a retired Green Beret named Bull Simmons for Ross Perot and springing Americans out of a prison in 1978 or 79, right? There's a movie about it called On Eagle's Wings. He basically got a crowd of people. They got into a big protest, and he got them to go do a prison break, and we freed Americans that way. So this can be used. You know, it's a tactic that can be used one way or the other.
Now, Michael, this last question, of course, at this point right now, it's only a couple days after all these protests. We're still waiting for evidence. We're still assessing imagery and photos and trying to figure out what actually took place. If you were to tell people one thing in terms of your work and in terms of what you saw, what would you tell them?
Well, I am the most experienced living American combat correspondent. I've been doing this for years in many countries. As you know, Hong Kong, that's where we first met. And so war is what I do, not elections, right? And I know what I'm doing when it comes to war. And I see the United States is now clearly going into civil war. It's unambiguous at this point. And so what we saw there, Antifa is helping to rile this up. Black Lives Matter is helping to rile this up. And not just them, we've got outside influence. For instance, CCP is neck deep in this. And so we are facing an information war of unprecedented scope. I've written 3 books on it. Unfortunately, they're all in Japanese because I've been working to try to wake the Japanese up to this. They're also a target. The Japanese are facing the same information war, but in Japanese language, trying to rewrite textbooks for schools, taking hold of teacher unions. Every technique and tactic that you see being used here is being used in Japan, right? And it's being used to split Korea and Japan. It's being used in Korea as well. As you know, I've spent years in Asia, rolling around studying this thing. So it's coming for us now. We have to make a united face to face the enemy. The enemy is CCP and some others who are organic to the United States.
Okay, I'm going to stand by. I'm going to splice in a different video if you would care to listen to that one too. And we need to record things. Things are being deplatformed. It's a crazy time. You heard him say, and he sounded very believable to me. And looking around, it does look like civil war could occur. I don't know what it'll look like, but stand by a minute. Let me add one more video.
Donald Trump, Facebook account, Twitter account, banned. In the last 2 weeks of his presidency, Zuckerberg and Dorsey citing the events of Capitol Hill as a justification to prevent further incitement of further violence. This is going to be one of those cases where, even if you agree with the object of this censorship, even if you think it is justified in this case, you cannot agree with the act itself. And I'll explain why. You may or may not agree with my take. This is a situation where tech giants are usurping the platforms of elected officials and the highest elected official of the land. This is big tech doing nothing other than proving to all the people they are the true rulers, not even your elected officials. And now I know the argument is that it's a private platform, they can do what they want, etc., etc. This may be true to some extent, but not when they grant platforms or when they grant accounts to public officers for the purposes and the functions of their office. That being said, you cannot accept this type of censorship, because this type of censorship, when it starts at the highest, and basically we've gotten to the highest in the world, you realize that they are in fact the gatekeepers and controllers of information, access to information, and the shaping of your very way of seeing the world, even if you don't fully appreciate that. There's another more practical reason. This is going to achieve the exact opposite purpose of its intended purpose. I know, there's the expression that fascism comes always cloaked in benevolence. The explanation that this is to avoid further incitement, further discord, is a very bad justification, because Zuckerberg and Dorsey know darn well that by doing this, with a week and a half left of a presidency, they're not doing that, and they're not going to achieve that goal. They are in fact going to achieve the exact opposite of that goal, and they know it. And for everybody who's saying, react, uprise, and do bad things to contest their censorship, they know that that's the reaction that they're going to get out of people, and that's, in a way, probably of the reaction that they want, to play it so that they can then justify even further censorship and further controlling of thought, and saying, look, the people can't even be trusted with their own freedoms, we need to further control them through their own freedoms. And it's, in a way, it's like practicing law. For anybody who's practiced law, you will have been in a file where a lawyer will deliberately needle you, and he will do something that he knows will provoke a reaction, and he'll disguise it in benevolence and altruism, and for the benefit of the court, Your Honor, I would like to say something that I know is going to needle my adversary, and they're going to do it, cloak it in benevolence, but want the reaction from you. And if you give them the reaction, all that you do is play exactly into the reaction and their hand, and you in fact further aid them in the pursuance of their ultimate objective. There are ways to usefully protest and to usefully object, and there are ways to counterproductively object and counterproductively protest. And if one succumbs to the counterproductive methods of protest, not only are they going to be further from achieving their own goal, they're actually going to assist their adversary in achieving their goal. And that is something that too few people truly appreciate, is that it's not a question of rolling over and accepting the unacceptable. It's a question of fighting it in a useful manner that does not actually compromise your goals and further the goals that you don't agree with in the first place. And for anybody who thinks that this is a good idea, yet Trump's a terrible person, obviously ban his accounts. If the rule is going to be applied equally, or even remotely equally, or even equally arbitrarily, you may think that you're safe today because your ideas are not the dangerous ones today, or you're not engaging in what is deemed to be the insightful rhetoric of the day. But it's not a slippery slope, it's a free fall. And what you might wholeheartedly believe is insightful rhetoric today will be something very different tomorrow. And the bar tends to either go up or go down depending on your perspective, but the standards don't get looser. And you're going to live in a world where, in fact, what you're going to do is not de-radicalize anybody on either side of the spectrum. You're, in fact, only going to further radicalize both ends of the spectrum. And for anybody who thinks they're going to clean up Facebook and Twitter, you're not going to clean up Facebook and Twitter by knowingly silencing and purging one side of the debate. In fact, all that you're going to do is further polarize both sides of the debate. You're going to create one echo chamber where everyone who leaves is going to go and start up another one, and you're going to turn what was a forum with diverging opinions into its own echo chamber, which is, over time, going to get increasingly radicalized by virtue of its own echoing throughout the ballot. And for anybody who doesn't spend enough time on Twitter, that's already what you have there. And incidentally, it is one of the reasons why I'm leaving Twitter. I left Twitter yesterday before any of this actually happened, although I guess part of me knew the writing was on the wall in terms of Twitter just looking for excuses because they are purging thousands and thousands of accounts. But Twitter is a toxic echo chamber hellhole because it is by and large controlled by big accounts which echo the same ideology and echo the same intolerance. And at the very least, before any purge that Twitter engaged in, you had the diverging opinions battling it out, and you could have people make their own decisions, come to their own conclusions based on that diverging discourse. Without that diverging discourse, all that happens is both sides will get increasingly radicalized, and Twitter and Facebook is going to turn into an increasingly radicalized, on one end of the spectrum, forum, and the people who have been silenced are not going to get less radicalized. All that's going to happen is that there's going to be no further exchange among people. And if I want to be cynical, part of me can say that that is part of the design of social media. It is to create the discord, to exploit the discord, to control the discussion. I can't believe I haven't caught a fish yet, but it's good to get some sun.
That's Viva Frei, Montreal litigator, and both these clips were recorded on January 10, 2021. So anyway, record things. They may be taken down, and you should try and have a copy. Thank you so much.